Welcome to the Seahawkers podcast. We are excited to chat to you today about Seahawks free agency. I'm Clinton Bonner, and I am joined by my good buddy, Mr. Adam Emmerich, coming from the road. Adam, how you doing today? And where are you hanging out? You got this mysterious background. You're traversing the coast, I believe. But where are you, man? Check in with the folks, would you?
Yeah, well, firstly, I'm not your good buddy. You're my good buddy, and I just want to make sure we get that straight. But
love it, good buddy.
I am in the mini camper on my way down to California to do one of my few wheel grind jobs here for the year, and I'm stopped in Bend, Oregon. So, yeah, just wanted to take a few minutes, sit down with you, talk about some of this free agency stuff. It's been exciting.
Oh, it's been a great start to it. I think a really fun start. And for those that are watching on YouTube, you should be youtube.com/Seahawkers podcast. You can see this big old, maybe this way. Here it is. Big old Captain Thigh Arms back here, because I think of all the players on that, on that front seven, I got to think Captain Thigh Arms, Al Woods, might be the most fired up because he's got a couple of new compatriots to go to battle with any given Sunday, man.
Oh, absolutely. You can see the Seahawks have put some time and effort and money into the defensive line and the interior of the defensive line, which is great. I'm very excited that they would do such things. I'm very perplexed by these moves in a few ways. I think they don't make all the sense. So I'll be interested to hear what you have to say about them kind of first and foremost here, Clinton, but they are potentially good moves, but maybe not exactly the ones that they needed.
Yeah, I like the way you're framing it because, they're a little bit risky, right? There's some definite rolls of the dice in some ways. But I do have a kind of how I think things are grading out so far. And I would say for me, it's more positive than negative. Certainly. I think they're solid moves. And I do think it's answering the core thing was like, I don't think Pete wants to go through another season where we get run on over and over and over and over.
Which is what makes these moves perplexing.
Partially, right? I think I know where you're going. Take it.
Yeah. So my biggest problem with the Draymond Jones signing and then also the, reacquisition of Jared Reed is that neither of these guys specialize in stopping the run. They're more pass rushers than they are run stoppers.
I don't think
Jared Reed is not a very good run stopper at this stage of his career. He's not.
He's only 30, dude. He's not like he's like 33, 34. He's 30.
It's not about his age. It's just that unless he changes his game back to the way he played the first couple years he was in the league, then I don't quite he's the one that bothers me the most out of these signings because I don't see him as a significant upgrade to Quentin Jefferson. I think they kind of just they just stayed neutral. I don't think they got worse, but they kind of spent more money on the guy. I don't get it. And then with Draymond Jones, he's undersized as an interior defensive tackle. He is lamented by the Broncos fan base. They do like him a lot, and they do wish that they could have kept him, but he's lamented by the fan base because they would get mad that he takes a lot of risks in the run game and gives up big plays. So again, another thing that I don't think Pete can stand. Now he's young. He's got tremendous upside. He's got tremendous size overall. He could become a Michael Bennett type player that has some edge ability and then has some interior ability, but neither of these guys are big time run stoppers, not even close. And so that's my biggest problem with it.
Yeah. And I think so. I have a different tact on Reed at this point. I still think Reed is a well above average run stopper. I think if we're just in a vacuum, Q Jeff versus Jaron Reed, I think Jaron Reed's a better football player. I think I just think he is. I don't think we're going to sniff the 10.5 sack Jaron Reed because he never, ever got close to that again. He showed that he can get some interior pressure when he had that partner with Frank Clark that year, but that just never, manifested itself, whether it was Kansas City or over to the Packers, right? Just didn't go that way the rest of his career thus far. I still think he's a pretty darn good plug and play defensive tackle run stopper that will do a good job. And I think that's better than what Q Jeff was at this point. And I would say, I think Q Jeff was pretty average. And I think they've upgraded that side of that position a little bit, at least with Jaron Reed. So I'm pretty excited about that. The Draymond Jones piece for me, I like how violent he is. I know most football players are violent. And when you go watch him play, I kind of miss that kind of, when we were talking about Frank Clark, maybe, could potentially come back a couple of weeks ago when we played Kansas City, a couple of weeks, with the season to still go. I was talking to Brandon being like, we still don't have that dude. Like, I understand he doesn't rack up a bunch of sacks during the year, and we don't got that guy out there that just looks like his head's on fire and he's like violent looking in his movements and in what he brings to every single snap, regardless if he gets the sacks or not. And then of course Clark does what he does in the postseason because he's darn good. I look at Draymond Jones, and sure, I don't know his whole book. Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and profess I know every single play that I've ever seen. With that, I do like what I see in terms of like the sheer go get the quarterback mentality. And I agree. I think there's a bit of a, hey, he's going to have to stop the run a little bit better than he has it through his 26 years of life thus far.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to Jaron Reed and the QJeff comp real quick. Last year, how many sacks did Quentin Jefferson have?
What did he have, like 5.5 or something like that? He was, decent.
Jaron Reed hasn't had that in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's with the Chiefs, who they were a good defense when he played there with other guys that he could feed off of.
Yeah,
didn't really live up to the hype.
Yeah, Frank Clark.
He played 14 games, I think, last year for the Packers. 2.5 sacks. Was kind of right now. Jaron Reed is just a guy. That's who he is. That's who he is as a player at this point in his career. Unless he can up his game and kind of find where he was the first maybe 3 years of his career in Seattle, and maybe being repaired with Pete Carroll, it will bring out the best of him. But he's not a good run stopper right now. He's just not, and he hasn't been for 2 years.
Well, we're gonna have to hope that he gets back to that kind of form. And I probably have some bias, right? I probably had the I know this guy real well bias. That's what happens when a guy comes back, or at least can happen, right?
Oh, 100%. When I first saw the signing, I was like, sweet. That's a certain upgrade over Quentin Jefferson, right? Look, what has Jaron Reed been up to? Then go back and look at some of his ratings, and then listen to some people that have watched him a lot with the Packers and the Chiefs over the last 2 years. And they all kind of coalesced around the same thing. Can kind of sort of rush the passer. Doesn't really do much against the run. He's fine. Draymond Jones, though, he has the potential to be a megastar, which is one of those things that makes you wonder, well, then why didn't the Broncos want to re-sign him as a young, up-and-coming pass rusher? That makes you a tiny bit nervous. I'm excited about it. I think I do trust in Pete and John enough to say that they can go out and find that guy. Now, I wish it was at the same price they got Mike Bennett and Cliff Averill,
sure,
and
those
guys
bargains,
for. Yeah, back in the day. I mean, they're paying top dollar here, but I think that they probably did hit. But I do think that points a little to what they may or may not do here with the 5th pick, especially Clinton, especially with the news that just flashed across my screen not but 30 seconds ago. Are you ready? Are you ready for another big free agent signing?
For us or for
the Seattle Seahawks?
Let's go. What do we got?
All right. 1 year, $4 million deal for Drew Lock. He's coming back as your backup.
Let's go. You know what? People are going to hate that. And I am fine. I'm fine with it. No, people, there's people that just think Drew can't play football whatsoever. I like that. I like that I'll tell you exactly why I like it. Number one, I think that you could throw the ball. Number two, another year under Geno, and this recipe of maybe quarterbacks blooming a little bit later, and you keep the guy in the program. Hey, maybe we don't got to spend our 5th pick on a freaking quarterback. I mean, I know there's some good ones there. I know there are good ones there, but we don't need a quarterback. Why not build the friggin' defense, build the team that Pete and John really want to go build, and figure quarterback out later. And if you retain Drew Lock for 1 more year, well, that gives you the chance to retain him for maybe another year after this, in which case he might actually evolve into the next Geno, the man, right? With great, great arm talent. So 1 year, 4 million for a competent backup that could be, potentially could be a starter one day. I'm okay with it. That's my instant reaction on Drew. How about you, dude?
Uh, at the risk of sounding like the Demi Moore to your Patrick Swayze, ditto. Everything you said right there. That's exactly what I would say about that. And, a lot of people say, well, Drew Lock can't play. Okay. You know that?
Right.
You know that. Because you don't. I don't. You don't. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. It's just like Geno from this last year. I sat here through the whole offseason and told you Geno can't play.
Yeah.
Guess what? I was wrong. I was dead ass wrong. So for anybody to pretend like they know what Drew Lock's ceiling is at this point in his career, still a young guy, you don't. You just don't. And him and Geno seem to work well together. And now that is one more reason why they will not pick a QB at 5. And I think the signings of Jones and Reed point to the type of player they're going to sign or draft at 5. And I think that's going to be some sort of run stuffing D tackle or trade down and find that guy maybe in picks, 15 on or whatever it is. But on the defensive line, I think they're going to be drafting the big, thick run stuffer. They went out and spent money on the big guys who could rush a passer a little bit. And then they're going to try to mix that all together.
Yeah. So the biggest news in the last 24, 48 hours around the draft, around the 5 spot, has really been around Jalen Carter. So I'm not sure. I know you've been on the road. Did you see the news about his pro day and how bad his pro day was yesterday?
Sure. Here, things I don't care about in the world. I don't care about pretty much any politician. I don't care about the Kardashians, and I could give 2 shits about somebody's pro day. Don't care. Couldn't care less. Pro days are the most ridiculous thing on the planet. They're worse than the combine. So whatever that is, that's fine. As far as his character concerns, I think Brandon and I are going to discuss that a little bit deeper in the next full pod. But for any of us, the armchair quarterbacks, all of us that are the pundits out here who aren't in a room with Jalen Carter, who didn't go and talk to his coaches, didn't interview his family, didn't talk to his friends, you don't know anything about his character. This is all just people regurgitating reports about what somebody else said about the way that he behaves. Now, granted, the car accident deal with him and his buddy and all of that, that's not hearsay. That happened, and he's got to deal with that. He's being charged with 2 misdemeanors on that too, by the way. It's not like he's getting charged with felonies. Now, not to say that that was a good thing and he should have been involved or anything like that. However, the idea that he's a terrible character guy, there's no way they could draft him. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I think there's so much just guessing at that, right? I mean, there is some, I would call it what people think is educated guessing, which I don't think is actually educated guessing. And I want to talk about that for just a sec, in the sense that and to lay it out there for folks that didn't see it, his pro day was bad and just flatly, right? He came in 9 pounds heavier than the combine.
9 pounds?
Hold on.
No way, Clinton.
Hold
on
on.
A 320-pound dude, he came in 9 pounds heavier.
9 pounds
Wake
heavier.
me
right?
When it's a swing bigger than 30 when it comes to a D tackle.
All right, hold on. And the big thing people were saying, which is the videos there, he couldn't finish. He literally couldn't finish his drills. He was breathing real heavy. So that they're compiling his last showing and the games where he was gassed. He was visibly gassed. And now he can't finish combine drills. And then he has to bail out and say, I can't do the rest because I'm cramping. Right. So there are these things that are compiling for people to take what they believe is an educated guess that Seattle won't take that guy because he doesn't have grit. And then he has character issues because of the car accident thing's bad. That's bad. With that, I think the news was there today that he's not being charged criminally. He's got to do 80 hours of this and different things. He's already worked it through the legal system. Is what I saw today. So I hopefully someone knows for sure. But that's what I saw came over, that he's kind of worked that stuff out. The piece for me that I think there's a gem of an opportunity is one of 2 things. Number one, you take the dude at number 5. You take the giant defensive tackle who in his college career looked like the first pick overall, like it was top 3 pick overall, who did the stuff on the college football field in the best conference there possibly is against the best talent that's available that he could have possibly played, even knowing the stuff that's happened lately. Or you trade back, you trade out of 5 and you get back to you trade with the Falcons and you still potentially get Jalen Carter because he fell because of these character things that are there, which could be the move of all moves. I mean, it just to me seems like as an example, there's some folks out there, different pundits who are like, character wise, there's no way they're going to do it because John Schneider said and Pete said they learn from their mistakes. They learn from the Malik McDowell. And I get it. I get what they said about those things. But I also look at like Pete Carroll's ability to be somebody that can actually like truly, I believe, empathize with what people might be going through and be a culture guy who gets it and then gets the very best out of those types of people that maybe would have been less effective in a different environment. And I think Pete likes those kind of challenges in a way too. I just think it's an interesting wrinkle that people are just discounting. They're just throwing them out with the bathwater. Jalen Carter, that is, be like, we're not taking him at 5. I just don't get it. I don't see it that way.
A lot of hard telling, not knowing with that, right? And the other thing too is, I said, well, we don't know. And the thing is by not knowing, those character issues could all be totally true. That could be totally true. It could also be totally false or somewhere in between. Who knows? I don't. But the Seahawks are going to get their due diligence in and they're going to know. Now, it's not a slam dunk that let's say they stay at 5, that they spend it on D-line. Like, look at free agency, what we've done so far. No big moves at linebacker. Mm-hmm. Cody Barton goes to the Commandos. And yeah, I mean, we're still waiting on Bobby News potentially, if that's going to happen. I still vote for bringing in Tranquil from San Diego. I think he's an excellent run player and a decent guy in pass coverage, better than Barton anyways. So who knows? Maybe they go linebacker. Maybe they go receiver because we haven't seen them go out and sign that third receiver yet either. What happens now that Rashad Penny is an Eagle? Does that mean that they're going to target running back early on in the draft? Maybe they trade back a little bit and then target running back. Maybe the defensive linemen, those big run stuffing D linemen, maybe those guys are in round 2, round 3, round 5, right? It's going to be interesting to see. I'm not dead sold that they're going to go a top 5 pick on interior defensive line. They may do that on offensive line for all I know. It's crazy. I think most people are kind of fixated on the idea of Carter or not at pick 5 when the choices are truly endless now, especially with Drew Lock coming back and you're kind of out of the quarterback market.
You would think you are. I actually hope we are for different, for all the reasons we stated. And there's still a possibility that the Cardinals make a move and Will Anderson falls. I mean, there's tons of possibilities. They're all there, right? We don't know what's going to happen. Right. Will Anderson. And of course you got Tyree Wilson that people are very enamored with as well. So we shall see how it all works out. I just think I think in any other year, the big blue chip defensive tackle would be gone. Just be like, okay, we saw what he did. He's going to go in the top 3 and that's that. There are certain circumstances that are making him fall, there's some perceptions, and then that they are real things that are making him fall down the draft board. Well, that could be, let's put it that way, could be to our advantage. So it'll be super interesting to see how we manipulate that. I did want to ask you about a different name. Was cut yesterday. In my opinion, if we want to talk about stuffing the run, setting the edge, what do you think about Jadeveon Clowney coming back for a return tour to the Seattle Seahawks? He got cut by the Browns yesterday. I don't not talk about rushing the passer. He'll get pressure. We know he won't get his sacks. He hasn't his entire career basically, but the dude can stop the run. He knows how to play defense. What do you think if Clowney were to potentially take a second trip out to the PNW?
Yeah, no, thanks. I'm good. I don't need to see part-time Clowney again for however much money he's going to command. I think there's a lot of other big run stuffing guys that you can throw in the middle for relatively cheap, or get him later on in the draft. Either way, because if I look at it, Clinton, I don't know if you agree with this, but if the goal is to improve by about 3-4 games this year, let's say 3, at least get one playoff win, if not go and win the whole damn thing, but make a run in the playoffs. The number one area that they have to improve is stopping the run.
Yeah.
They run the ball okay. They can play the pass okay. And I think their pass rush is going to get better with the new super coach that came in, Mr. Jordan, and all that stuff. But I really need to see them improve in that area. And again, the free agent signings don't point necessarily to that. And so I'm starting to get a little nervous because I think that's the easiest way that they can go about making a better team this year, a better roster to win 3 to 4 more games.
Well, bottom line is we cannot have games like the Josh Jacobs game. Can't have it. Like
No.
the Taysom Hill game. Like they ran one play, one play, and it just, between the Raiders game, the Saints game, the Bucks game, the Bucks who didn't run the ball all year long, and then they ran all over us. It's got to be the number one priority, which I like, at least where the action is, where the pin action is happening. I think the team at least believes they're addressing it. Now we'll also see Shelby Harris was, I thought, one of the better players to see him get cut. Potentially maybe he'll come back as well. But to your point earlier, it's like, well, are we actually better at stopping the run right now? I'm not quite sure yet. And we do not have any linebackers. So we certainly got to address that part too. I do have one more name for you, dude, that I wanted to throw out for today, at least. And you being, you got Bronco Jared out there. You're pretty darn close to Denver in general. Talking about wide receiver, the Denver Broncos are now floating a couple of players, but specifically for me, Jerry Jeudy. They're floating Jerry Jeudy out there. And what they want, they said they either want a late first rounder or an early second rounder. How would you feel about giving the Broncos back their own second round pick and acquiring one Jerry Jeudy? So we don't got to draft that third wide receiver weapon. We just go get one. What do you think of that potential scenario?
I am not nearly as high on Jerry Jeudy as most people are. Now, that might be a product of the fact that he's played in some really bad offenses since he's come into the league. And so that doesn't move the needle a lot for me. Now, I'm a very petty human. So in no way do I want to give the Broncos their pick back. I want that pick. That's my pick. I don't want them to ever see that again because I just enjoyed that we stole that from them. I thought that was a lot of fun. So if they could trade back maybe like 2 spots and then trade that pick back to the Broncos for Jeudy, then yeah, okay.
I do like the pettiness. I like the pettiness of
yeah, it's full on petty. There's
wiggle
no
it just a little bit, and then it's tradable. I like that.
Right. Yeah. I think there's a bunch of dudes that you could go out and get for not much veteran money. The Marquise Goodwins of the world, right? They can find that guy again. I mean, whether that's Robert Woods this next year or who else is available?
I think he's gone. I think Bobby Tree's signed, I believe. But I'm also I'm trying to think though. Like to me, Goodwin was a great 4. He played an admirable, third weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's like it's like baseball, like a baseball. I know you're a big baseball guy, but it's like having your pitching rotation. You got some dudes out there that are like outstanding 4th and 5th starters, but on some teams they got to go play 2 and 3. And that rotation's like, nah. But you get that dude at the back of the rotation that's like, oh man, he's as good as most teams is 3. I'm looking for that level. I think Goodwin's nice, but I'm looking for like really good in that third wide receiver spot. I'm pretty high on Jeudy. I think he's a really good route runner, and I don't think he's had the best scenarios in his Bronco career so far to be successful. But I think he gets separation. I think he catches the ball pretty darn well. But I think he's a really sharp route runner. So I think you pair that with what Geno has shown he can do, which is just simply be very accurate, and he'll fit it into tight windows and trust his receivers. I think Jeudy would be a good pairing. I know it's a whole lot of fun speculation, but I kind of think it almost in the reverse way from you. I think it almost like sweetens the trade that much more. If you could somehow trade them back their own chip, to go get a player that they coveted a while back. Cause I think Judy was a first rounder, right? A couple of
Oh,
years
for
back.
sure. Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So not then pedigree aside, I just think he's actually a pretty darn good wide receiver. And he's what is he 26, 25? He's still
Yeah.
quite young too.
I get the logic of it. I mean, if they got the deal done for that, one of the early seconds or whatever it is, I don't think I could complain. That'd be fine. Now you're just going to end up having to pay him pretty quickly is the
Right.
big bummer. Whereas
yeah.
I think you can use one of the earlier picks on wide receiver 3. I mean, college football is producing wide receivers by the dozens.
Yeah.
So those guys are out there in the draft. Now, have they been great at drafting wide receivers? No, but then again, both of our starting wideouts are
I mean,
homegrown talent.
I was going to say, like, I would say, yeah. I mean, like, I know there's misses along the way. With
A lot
that,
of Amara Darbo's in there.
Sure. Yes, there are. Yes, there are. What
Yeah.
was the dude from West Virginia that came in he was a 4th round pick and never played a snap? I forget his name.
No, I can't remember.
Yeah, somebody will pull it. That's okay. And with that, there's probably not, another team out there where this longevity too, where they've had 2 guys this long that they drafted, both in the 2nd round, that have been this darn good with Lockett and Metcalf. So it's interesting. I'm the more and more pieces we can fill in now that allow us to go get a wide receiver 3, or heck, if we want like the best tight end, if we want to go get the best tight end, we want to go spend 20 on Michael Mayer, or say he falls to 37, but like he's the best tight end. I'm fine with that, man. If we go get some offensive weapons while we, fill in the blanks in the free agency, which is what I think we're doing so far, I'm definitely into it in general. And I do have one more topic, dude. I wanted to ask you about, how do you feel about the Ryan Neal, how they tagged him? Do you know like what they ended up doing? Okay. So with that, I think it's RFA, right? They put the lowest level possible on him. 2 point something million versus the 4 point something million. There's no second round tender there. So he's pretty exposed. So what do you think happens? If you got to put the thinking cap on or the future cap on, what do you think happens? How does the Ryan Neal part play out? Because he was a very significant ball player for us in 22. And I think he may be just as important in 23, but I think he's a little at risk at this point.
With that, the way they tendered him, they have the chance to match, correct?
Yes, you can match, but there's no compensation now. So if they chose the higher level, which would have been 4 point something to start, then they could let him walk and they would have gotten a second round pick. Right now, there's no compensation. It only starts at like 2.6 or something like that. So it's just risky.
Is backup well, you can only tie so much money up in the safety position, right? With the Jamal Adams deal and with Diggs and all that, I can understand why, with the cap being as it is this year, where they have some space, but not a crap ton. I don't know that you had the luxury to basically guarantee Ryan Neal $4 million for a year. I think that the idea being is, look, okay, go out on the open market and see what you can get. I don't think, number one, the safety position is as valued around the league as it is in Seattle. So I don't know that the offer is going to be out there. And then on top of all of that, I don't know that Ryan Neal is one of those guys that's really on a lot of other organizations' radar. I love Ryan Neal. I think he's a heck of a player. And when Jamal has gone down, he has come in and been a tremendous addition. But they have found dudes of that nature over the years relatively easily. I can see why they'd be hesitant to try to commit more money than 2.75 million to backup safety at this point in the game.
Yeah, I think the piece for me is I don't know how the league sees him either. I don't. I obviously can't profess. I do know that PFF thought he was quite good. And I know, at least I know we're going to go look at PFFs, but do the GMs really do that? Who knows? But
somebody does.
Yeah.
Somebody on the staff does.
Oh, yeah. For sure. And he graded out really, really well. I say back to the draft prospects, it does open up that EJ, EJ Snyder was like, hey, if the Seahawks want to go take Brian Branch from Alabama at 20, like if he's still there, he's like, run the ticket up to the podium. Basically, he's like, run it up there. It's like, you are getting whatever you want: safety, nickel, corner. He's like, that dude that's just good football player that could be an amazing DB in the NFL day one. So maybe there's a bit of a hedge there where they're like, we're in a pretty good position to get a Brian Branch caliber who then could have, a 5-year window in a rookie contract. And they're just willing to roll the dice because of what you said, because like you can't put that much more into the safety basket without taking away from other areas. And right now we don't have a linebacker, not one besides John Radigan. So we've got some wood to chop, as they would say in Bend, Oregon, my man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And with all that wood they have yet to chop, I do have faith because I've seen this team come together over the last 10 years, each and every season. And about this time in free agency, I don't know how many times. Oh, I just saw news that really bummed me out. Deonta Foreman signed with the Bears for $3 million.
Wow,
I really liked him as a backup running back.
Man, the Bears. It's just two. I know we're just cutting ourselves off. The Bears able to get rid of Montgomery, goes to the Lions, gets paid handsomely, and now they get Deonta Foreman to back up and be the Thunder and Lightning with Khalil Herbert. I gotta golf clap that and say, bravo, Bears. I think you did real well there.
Nice. As I've seen them put this roster together over the last 10 years or so, each and every year, it's at this time of year where I've got a little pucker. Like, what are they gonna do about this? What are they gonna do? And sometimes it takes way longer than I would like. The answer isn't obvious, but it's very rare that they go into the season without having addressed pretty much every single need going into the year and be highly competitive. So I'm kind of in chill mode. I'm like, all right, like, hey, they made a splash with Jones. That's kind of fun. I do enjoy having Jaron Reed back on the team because it's nice bringing your boys back. Love to see Bobby come back. I like what they've done with the offensive line, getting rid of Gabe Jackson and kind of retooling there at the right guard and center spot with Blythe retiring. I'm excited to see what they do at running back, and I'm excited to see what they do at wide receiver 3. And at the end of the day, this is going to be a highly competitive team, and it's not going to take too terribly much to just make it so that you're not swept by the Niners, but you go 2-1 against the Niners instead and knock them out of the playoffs. They're not that far away from that, considering the Niners will be going with Sam Darnold at some point this season.
And with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.